Past 7.5 weeks, we have seen Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky walking through the streets of Ukraine in the middle of this war, risking his life for his country. But you may remember Zelensky was also at the center of the first impeachment trial of our own disgraced ex-president. In fact, during July of 2019, in a now infamous phone call between then-President Trump and the Ukrainian President, Zelensky said, "I would also like to thank you for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next steps. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defensive purposes." To which Trump then replied, "I would like you to do us a favor, though." And then he proceeded to ask him to manufacture dirt on the Bidens. It was extortion. Trump was holding up vital military aid, things like Javelin and anti-tank missiles, in exchange for political dirt on an opponent. Now, to give you some context, just in the past 2 months during this war, the United States says it has provided 7,000 javelins to Ukraine, part of the nearly $2.6 billion in U.S. military aid to the Ukrainians since Russia's invasion began on February 24th. That is how Ukraine has defended itself against Russia's invasion. That's how critical those javelins were. Now, back in 2019, just hours after a transcript was released of Zelensky asking Trump for those specific weapons, and then Trump extorting him, the two actually had a face-to-face meeting at the United Nations in what is described as a truly, truly bizarre press conference. Watch this.
We had, I think, good phone call. It was normal. We spoke about many things, and so I think, and you read it, that nobody pushed me. Yes.
In other words, no pressure. Well, we're working with Ukraine, and we want other countries to work with Ukraine. When I say work, I'm referring to money. They should put up more money. We put up a lot of money. I gave you anti-tank busters that, frankly, President Obama was sending you pillows and sheets. And I gave you anti-tank busters. And a lot of people didn't want to do that, but I did it. And I really hope that Russia, because I really believe that President Putin would like to do something, I really hope that you and President Putin get together and can solve your problem. That would be a tremendous achievement. And I know you're trying to do that.
All right, I'm not a body language expert, but you can just pretty much see that pained look on Zelensky's face, a man who is trying to do for the best, with the best of his abilities for his country, while at the same time basically being bullied by the President of the United States, this thug. And 2 months later, with impeachment hearings in full swing, Trump went on the White House lawn to publicly threaten Zelensky.
I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky, President Zelensky, to do the right thing. This is the final word from the President of the United States.
All right, so the whole affair led to Trump's impeachment, but looking back now, it is so much worse knowing what we know. But at the time, one of the people who was actually fighting Trump's corrupt activity from behind the scenes was the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. For that, she was removed from her post and forced to leave the country in the dead of night. And her new memoir is titled Lessons from the Edge. Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch joins me now. Ambassador, thank you so much for making time for us. We all knew that Donald Trump, withheld aid from Ukraine, and that was certainly bad. He got impeached for it. But looking back with the benefit of hindsight, is it even worse how this played out than we originally thought?
Well, I think it just shows that President Trump was using Ukraine as a pawn for his own personal reasons, rather than working for our national security interests, which included having a strong Ukraine. He was looking out for his own interests, and I think that's a bad signal. Not only is it wrong and bad for the American people, but it sends a signal to dictators around the world that deals can be done with that administration, weakening the United States.
Can you help? Yeah, I was going to say, can you help set the record straight for us on that particular moment we heard there from President Trump where he said, President Obama sent you pillows and sheets, I sent you anti-tank busters. Compared to this administration, how does the Biden administration's handling of Ukraine compare to the Trump administration's and what he was saying about the previous administration?
Yeah. So the Obama administration made a decision that sending javelins would be escalatory, and so they made a decision not to provide javelins to Ukraine at a time when there was no tank warfare in Ukraine. So sending tank busters to Ukraine perhaps was not the most necessary thing, but it was symbolic. I think a number of people in the administration, including myself, felt that that was the wrong decision and continued to push when Trump became president. And under some pressure, Trump did agree to send an initial shipment of javelins to Ukraine in 2017, which were delivered in 2018, and then the infamous perfect phone call where he, traded, wanted to trade dirt on the Bidens for the javelins. So that is clearly not the way one should be using high office in the United States. So fast forward to the Biden administration, whereas clearly the Biden administration is all in, providing record amounts of assistance, including Javelin tank busters, including all sorts of equipment for Ukraine. And the important thing is to keep on flowing that equipment now when it can make the most difference, including long-range offensive and defensive equipment.
Let me get your opinion on how this ends today. I mean, what is your opinion on what you have seen in Ukraine during this invasion? And how does this situation end? People have made the difference between the attempt to save Ukrainian lives, to save Ukraine by ending this war and kind of reaching some kind of political or diplomatic framework, or what is happening now, which is bogging Russia down in this war and basically bleeding Russia out in Ukraine, even if it is still able to carry out the destruction that it is doing inside that country.
Well, I don't think that that's, those are, sort of reasonable positions to hold in the United States, but it isn't our call to make. It's up to the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian leadership, to make that decision as to what they want to do. I have many friends in Ukraine. I am so worried about what is happening, not only to my friends, but the greater Ukrainian population. It is horrifying to watch. But at the end of the day, they are fighting for their country. This is an existential crisis. They are fighting for their country. They are fighting for their families. They are fighting for their freedom. And it is up to them to make that decision as to how much further they want to go in Mariupol and in other parts of Ukraine, and how they move forward. I don't think that's something that we in the West should be dictating. We're not the ones who are fighting.
But surely we would have a say in lifting off the sanctions that we've imposed on Russia. Do you have a sense of what that would require for us to do that?
Not at this point. Sanctions, as you know, are very, very hard to lift under any circumstances. Right. And given what Russia has done in Ukraine, it's going to be really hard to see a bipartisan consensus to lift those sanctions. So, yes, we have a say on certain issues, things like sanctions. If there are any kind of security guarantees that the Ukrainians are looking for on reconstruction issues, there are roles for the international community, certainly first and foremost the United States. But I think in terms of an eventual peace negotiation, what those terms are is definitely up to the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian leadership.